Algebra 1 Study Guide number 6. Number 1, what is the slope of the line? Well, we now have two ways we can do this. We can take points on the crosshairs, and then we can count the blocks, or we can use points on the crosshairs and use the formula. So I think I'll work it both ways. I see that I have a point here, and I have a point here, and I also have a point here, and those are probably going to be the best ones. I think I also have one here. I could use those. I think I'll just use these two. So if I'm going to do the formula, if I'm going to do it by just counting blocks, I'm going to start here. And notice my blocks are by 1, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So I went down 3, negative 3, and I went from here to the right, so I went positive 2. Now, if I started up here and went down and then over, it would have been negative 6 over positive 2, which you do your, remember, slope is rise over run, which is your vertical change, that's your up and down change over your horizontal change, your left to right. So either way you go, or if I'd have gone up here, if I'd have gone up, that would have been rise positive 2 and then run a negative 2. So it will still, as you go when I'll put them in the end, you'll see that I have, like in this case, I have negative 3 over positive 2. Rise over run. Here, if I do rise over run, I have positive 3 over negative 2. Well, all of these, when you divide a negative by positive or a positive by negative, you're still going to get negative 3 halves. So whether you put the negative on the top, the bottom, or out front, it's the same. Now, what if we had done it by the formula? This ordered pair, if I use this one, is 0, 1. And this ordered pair is 2, negative 2. So in the formula, you subtract the y's on top. So I'm going to start, let me write the points here so you can see a little bit better. So I'm going to start with this y. So I'm going to say 1 minus negative 2. Those are my two y's. And then on the bottom, I'm going to subtract my x's. So if I started this y, I have to start with this x. So I'm going to say 0 minus positive 2. So that's going to be 1 plus 2 over 0 minus 2, which is 3 over negative 2, which again, you can put the positive, you can put positive, negative, negative, positive, or just the negative out front. So either way. And also another trick, before I started it, I know a line that goes down is to the right is going to have a negative slope. Now in this case, I've given points, and some people plot them, but I'm not going to plot those. I'm going to do it by the formula. So the slope is equal to, and this is xy, and this is xy. And so it's going to be the y subtracted on top. I'm going to start with this 8. So I'm going to say 8 minus 2 over, so I have to start with this 6. 6 minus negative 6. So that's 6 over 6 plus 6, which is 12, which reduces to 1/2. Now, what if I had started with the 2? So I would have had 2, let me go over here, 2 minus 8 over negative 6 minus 6, which is negative 6 over negative 12, which again, negative or negative is positive 1/2. So it doesn't matter which one you start with. You could plot them and count the blocks, but we really want to go to the formula, especially when the numbers start getting fractions or decimals or really big. We don't always want to plot those. When you do percent problems, you want to watch for your is and you want to watch for your of, and you really need to set up an equation. Some people do it by proportions, some people do it by equations. I like equations. So I'm going to do what is always my unknown. So I have x equals, that's my is, 35% is either going to have to be written as 35 over 100 and reduced, or it can be written as 35 hundredths as a decimal. And I like the decimal, especially from 9th grade up. And then of is my times, and then 84. So I need to go, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to put the 0.35 on top, and I'm going to put the 84 on the bottom. It doesn't matter. Community property multiplication says you can multiply anyway. I like the most number of digits on top, and even though I'm probably not even going to use that 0, it just looks like it's easier to multiply. So 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Carry 1. 0 times 4 is 0, plus 1 is 1. Okay, let's start with the 8. So we're going to come right under here. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 4 is 28. And then 0 times 8 is 0, plus 2 is 2. Now, when you take 35% of something, that's less than half of it. So the answer, there was no way the answer can be 2,000 something. But remember, we're multiplying by hundreds, 2 decimal places, so we have to put hundreds in our answer. So in this case, x is either, you can leave it 29 and 40 hundredths, or 29 and 4 tenths. You can reduce it. Let's solve an equation. I don't know that this necessarily ties with lesson 28, but we've done a lot of lessons with equations that have variables on both sides and parentheses. We're just distributing this 1/2. So 1/2 times 4x is 2x, and 1/2 times 6 is -3. You're just putting ones under those and distributing is all you're doing. And then equals 12 minus 3x. Okay, I like to get my x's cleared up first, so I'm going to add 3x to both sides. And I have 5x minus 3 equals 12. Now I'm going to move the 3 and get 5x equals 15. Divide by 5 and just about ran out of room, and I get x is equal to 3. Okay, I've got another percent problem. 29 and 7/10 is what percent, that's my unknown, of 22. So a lot of people want to look at these and think, oh, you're going to multiply them every time. Well, watch where your is and your of is. So I've got 29.7 equals what percent. Now you can put an x. I like to put p. That just helps me remember that I want my answer as a percent. Of is my times, and then 22. So notice the 29.7 and the 22 don't have a times between them. If we have something multiplied by 20p, if we have 22 multiplied by the p and we need to get p by itself, let's divide both sides by 22 to get rid of it. So we're showing that p is equal to 22 into 29.7. Okay, I'm going to bring my decimal up. 22 goes into 29 one time. And 2 from 9 is 7. Bring down my 7. 22 goes into 77 3 times, which is 66. Subtract, I get 11. Add a 0, bring it down. And 22 actually goes in 110 5 times. So my answer is p is equal to 1 35 hundredths. Now that's my answer, except it says write it as a percent. Well, you can do a shortcut of moving the decimal place, or you can use the concept of multiplying a fraction or a decimal by 100%. That's just multiplying by 1. When you do that, it's going to move this decimal. You'll see when you do 1.35 times 100, if you use the shortcut with 2 decimal places, it just moved that decimal place over 2 spaces, which is what percent means, and then you've got your percent sign. Now, the percent was over 100. Well, you were going from 22 to 29.7, so it had to be 22 is 100% of 22. So when this number was bigger, it had to be a percent greater than 100. Okay, here's another one. 25% of what is 300. The of is not between these two numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and write 25%. You can do 1/4. It's actually not that complicated. I like the decimal of my unknown. I'm going to go back to x equals my 300. Well, my x is not by itself. I've got to get rid of the 25 hundredths by division. And we'll come over here and do our division. We've got the numerator, 300, divided by 25 hundredths. You can't divide by decimal. You have to have it as a whole number. So we say move the decimal place. We're actually multiplying this number by 100. And if we multiply this number by 100, it's going to make it 30,000. So 25 into 30 is 1. 25 into 50 is 2. And then you've got a 0. 25 goes into 0 0 times, and another 0. 25 goes into 0 0 times. So 25% of, and so my x is 1200. That's a fourth of 1200. And if you think about it, you know that is 300 because 4 times 300 is 1200. This one, it says simplify. We first need to distribute, and I'm going to multiply and not reduce anything, and then it says simplify. I'm going to put my 2, so I've got a 1 here and a 2 here. So I've got 2, and I'm going to put a to the 6, and then b, and I'll try not to make my b's look like 6's. Oh, can't see it, I'm sorry. I'm distributing this fraction times this one. Numerator, numerator, denominator, denominator. So I'll have b times a cubed. You can put those in alphabetical order. It doesn't matter because of the community property for multiplication. 1 times 5 is 5. I have 6 a's, and I have 2 b's. On the bottom, I have a to the 6, and I have a b, and then it was 1 times 1. Now, let's look at that first fraction. If I have the 2 over 1 is going to stay 2. If I have 6 a's on top and 3 on the bottom, and I start canceling, I'll have 3 left on top. I have 1b on top and 1b on the bottom, so when I cancel, they're gone. So I'm just left with 2a cubed minus, and I'll come back and clean that up a little bit late in just a second. I've got a 5 over 1, which is going to stay 5. I have 6 a's on top and 6 a's on the bottom, so they're completely gone. I have 2 b's on top, 1 b on the bottom. That leaves me 1 b on the top. So you can leave it like that. It looks a little weird, but the denominators are 1, so I can just write it 2a cubed minus 5b. Number 8. A square tile has a side length of 4x inches. What's the area of the tile? Well, let's draw a square tile. And we don't know exactly what the... I moved it. Let me straighten this so I can do better. There we go. We don't know exactly what the side is. We just know it's 4x, and the measurement is units or inches. Well, I know that each of the sides are 4x, and if we had the perimeter, we would just add those up. That's not what it's talking about. It says, what's the area? Well, an area is a rectangle. A square is a rectangle. So we can multiply length times width times to get the area, which is, in a square, we just say side times side. So the area equals 4x times 4x. 4 times 4 is 16, and x to the 1 times x to the 1 is x to the 2. And then don't forget your units. We multiplied inches times inches, which is square inches.